Hello and welcome back to Aston Martin Race 6 Season 3, Spain. If you don't watch the last race, probably worth your time going back and doing so now, because spoilers, or to be fair, there's kind of a minor spoiler in the sense that you know that Mick Schumacher must have done relatively well because there's an up arrow on his number. Yeah, up to 7th for Mick, Pierre remains first. It's dumb. I don't know why, but okay. Like, we shouldn't be first. But we are. I did, in editing, also catch, you may have noticed it in the video itself, but why Pierre retired from qualifying. It did confirm my suspicions that Pierre simply just didn't go back into the pits after doing his flying lap. Simple as that. I don't know why he didn't, because it did say heading to garage on his in-lap, as it should do. He just didn't actually return to the garage and continue driving and ran out of fuel. So it was what I thought, and I do remember it did happen to Mick. It did happen to Mick last season in a race that it didn't really matter because it happened in Q2 and he was getting knocked out in Q2 at that point anyway, so it didn't really matter too much there. And it didn't matter for Pierre in terms of getting through to Q3. Obviously, it just affected the fact he then couldn't do anything in Q3 and get himself into his sort of normal position of round 4, 5, 6. But it didn't matter because he got first anyway. That's it. No new parts. And in fact, there's no new parts until after Monaco, next race. So I'll see you for qualifying in Spain. Okay, things to pay attention to going into qualifying for Spain. The top 8 is very much a top 8. Ferrari have found something, and actually I've actually found the pace they probably ought to have. We've nipped in 3rd and 4th with terrible engine parts, must be said, but also low fuel runs, so kind of counterbalances. Red Bull seem a little off the pace, Mercedes seem to be a little bit more on the pace, so that has sort of tightened up that top 8 once again. Continuing the trend, Norris and Magnussen remain a bizarre amount of time ahead of their teammates, although Ricciardo actually did a time that wasn't awful towards the end. And Zhou Guan Yu might be 11th here right now, but what you can't see behind my head is the fact he only did 15 laps is because he went off the track and then never did anything else. He didn't actually damage his car on his way, he just went off and came back on again, but it was enough to stop him from doing any more driving. So that 11th was on the original run at the start of practice. Lance Stroll is 18th, having done a soft run at the end of the session as well. I cannot explain Zhou Guan Yu. Also, shout out to Hamilton moving to Alpine just as the Mercedes got competitive again. But yeah, no issues for us. Actually, genuinely no issues for us. I think Mick had one off. We just went off and came back on the track and it wasn't a problem. Also, I'm using the new engine on both drivers just so when the time comes, I can actually, in fact, I'm actually going to use the brand new gearbox on Pierre as well. So just in case we have any situations going forward, I will then be able to do. To be fair, it's about time we gave Mick a new round of stuff anyway, just because even that one's getting to sub 70. So yeah, if we have any issues going forward, then we're not going to have any qualms in just going, right, we'll take new everythings, thank you. Let's pray that we don't actually have a repeat of Miami again. Now, there were periods of practice where Mick was actually faster than Pierre, but I think that's just purely because Pierre had much worse engine parts overall. For instance, Pierre had a sort of very degraded ERS and Mick didn't. I don't really know why Pierre has a degraded ERS actually. And on a clean run on both of them, Gasly is significantly faster than Mick. Not a great time for Bottas. Was he held up? I mean, I'll put the new tyres on just in case, but I do not think we'll be running again. I saw him waiting to see with the times sort of Magnussen's 6th. Okay. Zhou Guan Yu only 11th. That is actually kind of disappointing. Norris is one of the big ones I'm concerned by. He goes ahead of Mick. There's a big old gap between Mick and the Alpines. That feels impenetrable, but I'm also concerned by the fact that Bottas is 15th and will go faster. Again, it's kind of a case of understanding the game and not real life, in the sense that I know that these seem to be the times that these guys are doing. They may find a 10th or 2. They're not going to find half a second. I do think the Williamses, Stroll, Vettel, and the AlphaTauris at least are all slower, and they're all crossing the line. No one has gone faster than Mick. Zhou has moved up the order a little bit, but that is it. And then there's Bottas as the only one, as expected. The discrepancy between Vettel and Magnussen is bizarre. You'd think former world champion Sebastian Vettel will be able to keep pace with Kevin. No disrespect to K-Mag, love the guy, but what the flip? I would also expect Mick to actually find more in a later qualifying session here, because he has been significantly faster than these two throughout practices. So I am a little disappointed by Zhou Guan Yu. Okay, so now I know that we can definitely go outline Aston with Gasly in front in qualifying. It's not an issue. I did find it weird that Mick was faster in some of them, but I think as I say, I think that was just degraded car parts. Sainz with not a great lap there. I'm going to assume everyone's using used tyres. They are. I think they are. Anyway, Max has gone out of... Is Max going to go out of mediums? What's going on here? Okay, he does go out on softs. I think everyone's gone out on used. I think one round of used is 90%. So I think everyone went out on used tyres originally there. I see Showground used found something here. Only 11th still, but... Okay, well, Gasly doesn't need to run again. He did his time on used, and he is 4400th of the lead there. I mean, they all did that on used. Do I think Zhou Guan Yu will find 7/10ths on brand new tyres? Is basically my question, or any of them lot. The answer is probably no. I mean, Mick needs to come out again regardless here, so can I save 2 sets of fresh softs for Pierre? Oh, we might as well send him out, and then we'll just use these tyres for the first one of Q3 anyway, because we're going to have probably use 2 sets of fresh tyres for Q3 in this situation anyway. We'll just get Pierre out, as that's ahead of a Red Bull, but okay. I just don't want Pierre to be mugged off here. Mick's come out behind Ocon in the end. We'll focus on Mick, because that's kind of where the fight is. I hope they will get across the line. I don't think there's going to be issues. Sainz has run wide on turn 3. He's far enough up the order. That's not a question. Not an issue. In fact, he's first on the road. That's only going to have hindered one of the whoever's behind him, Bottas. But Mick going round there now to the perilous turn 4, which has claimed a fair few drivers already in practices. No one's gone off there in qualifying, but a fair few people went off there, including both Alfa Romeos and Albon, I think. Maybe even more than that. There was an incident here, actually, where Magnussen rejoined the track and hit Max Verstappen. Surprised there wasn't a penalty, actually, for that, now I think about it. But Magnussen is 7th and ahead of Mick still. Only 1,000th, so if Mick can find 1,000th, he's gone faster in sector 2. Gasly's only 7,000ths off Leclerc. I don't know whether or not that actually shifted upwards overall, but Sainz only 9th. He did go wide, actually, so little unsurprising that he didn't go that much faster, but Sainz going wide isn't Mick's saving grace, but he doesn't go faster than Magnussen on fresh tyres. What the That's concerning. Zhou Guan Yu only 12th, Hamilton 11th. That's not a track that suits the Alpines then, is it? Is that where we are with that? I mean, Mick is faster than Q1, as I hoped he would be, but what is this pace from Magnussen? Yeah, we know Carlos Sainz has got a lot more in hand here, but Pierre under a 117. The Red Bull seemingly actually genuinely slower. All right, so we'll use those used tyres again for the first lap, and we'll save a soft. I don't know whether softs are useful here or not, but whatever. We're going to have to wait for a Red Bull to come out here, as Max Verstappen goes straight away. A bit unlike the, well, real world champion. I think he might be the in-game world champion as well. I can't remember. I presume he is, as we sort of immediately pull out in front of Russell, but I think they're just on outlap, so we don't actually hinder anyone. We'll get the Q3 sets on and be done with it. Wow, Pierre third, 100% merit. Mick faster than Magnussen. What lap is that, out of curiosity? I don't really know, but I think it's in the same kind of ballpark, judging by Leclerc's time and the interval. Magnussen, I think, has just gone slower. And actually, that's a point. Because of the way the AI works, no one's going to be doing laps on fresh tyres again, except for us. In a race where we've brought 0 upgrades, can Gasly find the 4 100ths to claim a pole? I think Mick is comfortably 8th. If no one improves, I think Mick is comfortably 8th. Because Magnussen and Norris shouldn't do better times unless they had a hindrance on their laps or whatever, but they shouldn't do better times because their tyres are not going to be fresh. Where is everyone? Why has no one come out? In fact, I might send Mick first. I'll give Pierre a little bit of a breather. That should be enough of a gap between the two. Oh, that's plenty between the two. In fact, I forgot there was still a Magnussen there as well, so getting Pierre out ahead of Magnussen was crucial. All right then, brand new tyres for R2, and everyone else is indeed on their used sets, their Q3 sets, which they just used twice. So this is all really down to Pierre. I'm really hoping Magnussen doesn't go faster on used tyres, but if he does, then sure. But Pierre, in with a shout. If he can find 4 100ths, as I'll give him the respect and put him back on 1 times as he goes through the first 2 corners. Let's see what we can do here. I genuinely don't know where the sector lines are. I think sector 3 starts somewhere before the final twisty section, but sector 1, purple from Pierre. Mick slower on fresh tyres. Please make it make sense. But Pierre purple in sector 1. That's a blinding start then. Clear track ahead of him. He's not getting any toe off anyone, which probably, I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing in this game. Down the, what I'll call the back straight. He's done a green time in that. Not purple, but still better than his previous. This is also, I mean, this could still end up being like 4 100ths, like 4 1000ths faster rather than 4 100ths faster. Leclerc Verstappen do not improve. Sainz does not improve through the final chicane. And then final corner. Oh, Mick actually improves overall. Good from him. Pierre finds... Oh, come on, Pierre! 7 100ths in the end, as he effectively splits the gap back to 3.5 100ths to Leclerc. So inverted the gap from that behind to that in front. I think Russell and Perez must have crossed the line with a lap to spare, essentially. So I think Magnussen might have improved a little bit because his interval to Gasly is about what the interval was before. So he might have improved a little bit. Mick also improved a little bit as well. So stave that one off. But Verstappen third and Perez seventh. We are in a fight now. This grouping of Ferrari, Red Bull, Merc and ourselves is probably the most interesting Formula One season in a very long while. That many constructors that close together. As the achievement pops in down below me there, that is our first ever, and he found it when he needed it as well. Pierre Gasly continues to astound. His Q2 time wouldn't have been enough. Charles Leclerc with a 992 in Q3, but he found those milliseconds when it mattered. Mick with his best time of the entire session as well. Kevin Magnussen technically with his worst time of the entire qualifying for 9th. Perez's best time would have only been good enough for 6th in Q3. George Russell stays relatively consistent. Bottas marginal improvements across the 3. Carlos Sainz obviously did a bad Q2 because he went off, but then returned to P4. But yeah, this fight at the front, fascinating. Now we do have fresh softs, and there is a soft, medium, soft. I mean, we'll soft, medium, soft both drivers because we've got them to spare. But so Pierre comes in lap 20 and 46 in theory. Mick comes in 21 and 47. Just because he's slightly better on his tyres, he'd probably get away with that a little bit more. We saved the softs, and if we saved 2 sets, that would have been hilarious thinking about it. But it's the fastest strategy, soft, medium, soft. I don't really see the reason why not. Tyre degradation here doesn't seem to be superb. We can get 20 laps off these softs, so remember to do driver options off the line. And away we go. I actually don't know what he says here.
There we have Pierre Gasly. They're in pole position, and they've got to be happy about that. This is the Spanish Grand Prix. And it's lights out, and away we go. So
it's Frenchman from Monegasque from, well, I was going to say Dutch, but Verstappen's got second. Carlos Sainz with a terrible start, down to 6th, although temporarily back up to 5th again. Mick's actually lost out to Hamilton. Norris has had a terrible start. Mick's back on the inside. Actually, Mick had a terrible start too. And Mick's got Magnussen back at least, so I seem to remember, actually, we seem to love a race start here in Spain. It's just unfortunate that Mick lost spaces off the line because he's just had to regain them. Will we watch this? Because he's actually on the outside. Oh no, he's on the inside on the left-hander. Maximum medium tyres as well on the medium strategy. What's every strategy is 2 stops, so there's no sort of pit stop benefit from being on different tyres. It's just, oh my lord, Mick's gone for Russell there. Pushed him off the track, I think, a little bit, but George hasn't really complained too much about it. He's put his nose back in, but might have to yield eventually as we hit the chicane. In fact, he's done the complete opposite. Mick driving around the outside. I'm sorry. Pierre is 2.5 seconds up the road. What? Mick did get Russell in the end. I didn't click the replay, apologies for that, but Mick did get Russell in the end. But Norris with a shocker, qualified 10th down to 12th. Both Alpines leapfrogging him. Perez up a place, Russell down 2 technically. Sainz down 1, Bottas up 1, Leclerc down 1, Verstappen up 1. Gasly and Magnussen, I think the only 2 people in that top 10 to have still be in the position they started in. And that's probably a good point to come back in as Gasly continues to build the gap to Verstappen. Is Verstappen on mediums? They are on mediums. And everyone else is on used softs, pretty much. So we actually have the tyre advantage on this lot. This might be the reason why them lot went medium soft to begin with, because they didn't have fresh ones. So it would have been a little bit sketchy to do that strategy. And I'm fascinated to see how the soft runners pit. So looking at Sainz, Perez and Russell here. Now, obviously, as these 20 laps progress, Pierre's tyre advantage will evaporate. But it seems to be quite fuel hungry, this track. I'm not quite sure where that engine noise is coming from, because we're only looking at Pierre and he's 3.5 seconds up the road. Am I going crazy, or does everything sound a little louder? It might just be my end. Well, Pierre's just driving away at this point, so we'll leave him to it and focus on Mick, who is in a train that starts with Verstappen. Unfortunately, there's another medium tyre runner behind him, and Mick invariably is a tad slower in general than the 5 drivers ahead of him. Like for like, he is that little bit slower. So I'm kind of happy for him just to sit in Perez's, although he's having a little bit of a nosy there. Perez, in turn, is having a little nosy at the homeboy, Sainz, as they switch directions left, right and centre there, quite literally. 3 different drivers taking 3 different lines into that corner, but Sainz is on softs as well, so I'm not fully certain why he's having to defend so hard from Perez here, because I think he's faster. I mean, he should be, the Ferraris are. Leclerc and Verstappen squabbling, Bottas not really making an impression. It's kind of unfortunate that The Mercedes is that tiny bit slower than the Ferraris and the Red Bull. So it's a kind of a little bit unfortunate that it's Bottas that is fourth, because you kind of always want the faster soft runners to be the ones directly behind to really challenge those medium runners. But Bottas is sort of just content almost to be fourth. It's a bit of a shame, but meanwhile, 4.5 seconds. Pierre, where are we to leader, by the way, already? So 16 seconds to the back of the grid. Oh, there's been a moment. Bottas has gone off the road and come back on and caused a problem. It's a VSC. That's not really useful. We'll rewatch it. And actually, I'm really glad that Mick didn't actually take any of these drivers, because I think Mick got away without damage there. It has cost us time to Verstappen and Leclerc specifically, as the engine noise continues just by the fact we are paused. Well, we do need to keep up the speed, because if you sort of try to conserve, then that does cause a problem. But Bottas probably pits. Perez probably pits, because I think they both took damage, yes. So Mick's up to fifth, but he's now got to recatch Sainz, which is a problem. Perez and Bottas could still two-stop, I think. I don't think they'd have to three-stop. I think Bottas and Perez here could go onto hards and maybe then go onto mediums in the end, or do medium-hard. Either way, probably works for them. It just kind of depends on what the AI considers a viable strategy at this stage. Interestingly, Perez took more damage than Bottas because he's ended up behind him out of the pits. And they have indeed gone on hards, well, Bottas has anyway. So, unfortunately, that hold-up cost Mick 7 seconds to Sainz, who's still in the DRS of Verstappen, as they've actually lost even more time through the VSC. And unfortunately, that provides for some daft reason, DRS actually still continues immediately afterwards. So Russell has the DRS on us, but I'm going to force Mick to drive hell for leather. Although they did actually regain a second following the VSC restart, so maybe it happened in an inopportune time for Gasly. But we still got 5.5 seconds on them, so we won't feel too bad about it. As we actually do now have a soft runner behind these two medium runners that is capable of overtaking them, so this could get interesting. But I need Mick to drive away from Russell here. I'm trying to know what they did for the tyres overall. They're still on track. It doesn't seem like we're actually ahead of schedule. Actually, Mick has taken 1.5 seconds out of that gap. Whether that was just entirely VSC restart or not, I don't know. Or just pure driving. We'll find out. Actually, what was the last lap? Out of curiosity for them two. 133, 130. Wow. Okay. Okay, so we can't really deploy all that long, but we've got Russell out of DRS range, which is the key thing here. Mick does fastest lap. Should have put it in. But yeah, there's nothing really to pay attention to here until or if Mick gets caught up. He is taking a little bit of time, but not enough. It's not enough to keep pushing the fuel like that, unfortunately. But he's gradually built the gap to Russell, so that's 2 seconds now. Gasly to Verstappen is sort of hovering around 6.6. They might start closing up, actually. Have we hit the point where the soft tyres aren't actually better than the medium tyres? Quite possibly. Yeah, because that gap is no longer building. There's been a crash. It's an Alpine. It's Ocon. I think that corner provides enough for a run-off that it won't be a safety car, but or even a VSC. He's crashing. I suspect he might be out there. That could be beached. That could be beached. He's actually got going again. Mick's lost a second all told, but the gap to Russell's remains, so I think it's just this lot that have got faster. It's 2/10 slower. So, but you can see they're doing comparative times to Gasly now. They're sort of bang on identical. Pit windows in 3 laps for these softs. We are ahead of schedule for these. Ocon pits, of course. Mick lost half a second there, apparently. Mick and Leclerc did same laps, and yet somehow he's lost half a second. Not sure how that works, but I wonder if it's technically this Verstappen lap that's the fastest one, because obviously they do the overtake after the checkered line, so I suspect it might be Verstappen that was leading at the point of crossing the line. So that's where the gaps come from. Trying to work out what the pitting gap is, though. Pit lane time lost 24 seconds, apparently, but we'll have a look at that properly. 22, green flag, no hazards. So we'll take 22 seconds as the marker point. Ideally, we're going to want 22 seconds on Zhou, aren't we? Which we will probably get if we push the tyres. Yeah, Mick not being any DRS is a huge issue for him, but there's nothing I can do about it. I think these tyres can definitely be pushed, though. What's the Toledo with Zhou? 21.7. Gasly's just nipped over on fuel as well. I think by the time he actually needs to pit, he doesn't need to pit for ages. He's got 6 seconds on that lot, so... Actually, where's Mick coming out as things stand? It's behind the Williams ahead of Bottas. Actually, that's kind of crucial that he comes back out ahead of them. Right now, that's 25 seconds. 26. Thereabouts. What are them? What are they on? What strategy are those Williamses on? One's on mediums, one's on hard, softs. Okay. Well, I pushed up their pit window to begin with, so this might be a case of just letting it push back out again. Yeah, so we are now losing time to Leclerc and Verstappen, but that's expected because their medium tyres are obviously better than our soft tyres now. That isn't the optimal pit stop, so I am going to ignore, because he's still on 53%. I think we definitely pit Mick first now. I think we just attack Mick's tyres and pit as soon as he hits a suitable range. So the lap, basically the lap where he would hit 40%. Still 36 seconds ahead of Bottas. Of course, they're on hard, so they're not going. Their pace isn't superb. It's being. Oh, he's ahead of the Williamses now by 22 seconds. If Mick pits now, he ends up ahead of the Williams, but behind Stroll. And some of them pit anyway, of course, but not Stroll. Right, so now that's like his tyres have just hit 40% on lap 22. Where is Gasly? Gasly's ahead on the road. I think we let Gasly do one more lap, attack, go on to mediums, because he's gone past the pit lane now, has Gasly. Pit stop for Mick, as Magnussen, Joe, Norris and Doohan all pit as well. Stroll is still yet to pit. I thought he'd ended up behind Magnussen there. I thought, how the hell's that happened? Oh, Russell pitted a little while ago as well, so I probably should have paid attention to that, thinking about it, but I can see Russell behind on the straight. Definitely still ahead of Russell. In fact, Magnussen's lost out big time there. I don't know what happened with Magnussen, because he was fighting with Russell. I mean, to be fair, they're only a second apart on the road, but that's exactly where Bottas and Hamilton are. So Magnussen's actually lost out relatively significantly there. So Mick is indeed behind Stroll and ahead of Perez by about 3 seconds, I think that is. Yeah, so that's good for him. Don't really need to push the tyres. So Gasly now in. The gap to Verstappen, he's actually pitched on the same lap as them, having gone that first in on softs and not mediums.
Okay.
I mean, that's wild. It's lap 25, and we've absolutely done them there. Because now we're on identical tyres, and he's still about 4.5 seconds up the road. Don't burn this lap. I'm going to actually make you do a fastest lap once you cross the line again.
Okay.
Sainz has gained a fastest lap at some point, as he pitted earlier than them two, and has sort of ended up in between them as well. But it's 5 seconds to Verstappen. Stroll now pits as well, so that only leaves Vettel ahead of Mick, actually. Is he on hards? Because there was a hard strategy. No one actually did the hard strategy, it seems. But it's just Vettel pitting late, I think. So Mick overall has technically gained on the cars behind him, because it was only about 2 seconds before the pit windows, and now he's 3.5 ahead of Russell. Still 7 behind this. Well, actually more than 7, because he's got Vettel in between. Actually, it's a good drive from Vettel so far, but I know that's just because he hasn't pitted. Yeah, unfortunately for him, he'll still come out probably 16th. Gasly's just crossed the line, so we'll try and get him the fastest lap real quick. I mean, realistically, we're kind of looking to lead it with Mick here, just to see if we can get that gap between Leclerc and Mick down, but it's about 10 seconds. I don't think it's going to happen. Obviously, Mick's getting closer to Vettel, but that's about it. Vettel really needs to pit. Actually, Vettel shouldn't pit, because he's on mediums, and he's only on 57%. To be fair, he should be driving those for a good solid portion to go. Actually, we might as well leave him pushing the fuel, but... And he actually now pits as well. So, new fastest lap 1:19.8 for Pierre. And he's pushed the gap to 7.2 as a result, getting 2 seconds by pushing 1 lap. I think Mick may have actually called Vettel on that next lap, such was the time differential between the two of them. But we can sort of afford to push Gasly a little bit longer again. I think, unfortunately, we're going to enter a bit of a holding pattern here, as we just sort of wait for these tyres to hit a point where we feel like we can push them. It's actually probably more a case of working out where the comfortable point of the next tyres is. Because it says 17 laps, but we don't actually have... Obviously, we've got ones that we've done like 1 round of driving on, so they're good for, what, 32? 91 to 36% would be 19 laps. So we don't really want them to go to 36. We only kind of want them to go to 40. So we'll call that 17, 18. And if we want to have a little bit of push, that's about 15 realistically. If you want to push on the outbound and push at the final lap, let's say, that's about 15 laps. So you kind of want to come in around lap 50, 51. And the pit window is... That's the end of the pit window. But we did kind of push both drivers there. And obviously these are showing crazy things. But unfortunately, I think Mick's just stuck because there's no way he can get 10 seconds. I just kind of feel like there's nothing massively worthwhile. Magnussen, Hamilton, Perez, Bottas is an interesting fight right now. Because obviously 2 of them are on hards. Perez and Bottas are on hards, trying to recover from their accident. But they are struggling to hold on, looking at it. They're actually not really in a fight. But yeah, actually, they are sort of effectively using Hamilton / Magnussen to stay within a second just about. Well, that's fine, Pierre. You had 8 seconds in hand here. I mean, you say the brakes are poor. Just looks like you didn't brake at all. Minor underfloor damage. 4 seconds is now the advantage. I don't know what that damage is going to do, but it's minor, apparently. I mean, I'm glad you had an advantage there, because otherwise I'd be very annoyed. 3.4, 3.5, 3.5. Well, they might actually be gaining about... No, it's about status quo, really. If anything, actually, we're getting a 10th or 2. Tell you what, I am disappointed by Joe overall in this race, because in practice, they did look very strong. Just push Mick on the fuel a little bit. He's got a tiny bit in hand at this stage, so try and build that gap to Russell a little bit, just in case he has his moment as well, which I wouldn't be surprised by. There we are. 4.3 that gap. Unfortunately, this is sort of just because of that accident early on. This kind of really hurt Mick's race. Thankfully, he hadn't really overtaken anyone else to be involved in it himself. So I'm simultaneously pleased and annoyed for Mick. Oh god, yeah, we're on 63% tyres. We are not pitting anytime soon. Could have almost done Haas to the end of the race thinking about it, but 22 laps to go. Another car has spun. Oh, it's an accident in the chicane, I think. Oh, it's Joe as well. Oh, bless him. Why did he not go in the pit lane? He was right by the pit lane. Why didn't he go in it? It's a VSC. Huh. I don't really know why it's a VSC, but it's a VSC. There's nobody stationary on the track anymore, so I don't really know why it's a VSC. But Bottas technically gains a bit of time here, just by virtue of being in the pit at the time it was called. But I cannot go onto the softs yet. But I could go on another set of mediums, because we do have another pair set. But I know that everyone else will be going on to softs again at some point soon. I mean, we're ignoring for the time being, just because I think everyone else would ignore. But the issue here is, we will if the VSC is still on by the time we get to the pit lane, which it may not be, we will save some time in the pit stop. But I will have to go onto medium. So it's basically, will the advantage that I gain by pitting under a VSC be negated by the fact that I'm going to be on mediums and they're going to be on softs? Actually, let's actually watch what happened there, because did you spin on the apex? Yeah. And actually, to be fair, that's the Haas fault for continuing to drive. Actually, Ocon's in the pits. Bottas is already in it, but he's going to be looking away. Actually, can I go look backwards? Too far out. Can I look forward? That is the Mercedes team out, ready to put soft tyres on a vehicle. So that must be Russell then. Every other team out is ready to put soft tyres. I mean, we have to pit then. Didn't come back after watching the highlight, but we have to pit then. But they're all going on to softs. U-softs are that. Now, our U-softs have only done one run, so I don't know if we're going to have an entire advantage here or not. I want to know what Bottas has gone on to, actually. He's gone on to softs. I kind of want to know what tyre percentage he's on before I make my decision, but I don't know if I've got that time. Yeah, you can see there, that's exactly 40%. So, there's also a useful metric on here that can actually help our decision. We've got 21 laps, I think, basically, by the time we actually pit. We've got 21 and 22 laps. And there is a metric on here that tells you what the relative lap time will be compared to the tyre we're on currently. A brand new set of mediums would be minus 0.7. And we've been on these tyres about 20 laps already. So at no point will these tyres be slower than the tyres we're already on. They will be 0.7 up to where we are now, essentially. And actually, we'll probably naturally go faster and faster as the fuel burns off. But just on pure tyre alone, we will never be slower than we are right now if we go onto mediums. However, U-set soft is plus 0.6. But we save minus 1.1 initially, but there will be a transition point. Now, the other benefit, of course, is the fact that's what everyone else is on, so we don't have to worry about that. And to be fair, I know Pierre did 25 laps off the original set. I think we just have to do what everyone else is doing. If the VSC is cancelled by the time Mick gets there, I'll just cancel the pit stop. But we can see that Red Bull are out, and we have to... Oh, mind you, it could be for Perez. Perez is so far around the lap that I don't know if they'd come out that early. I don't know if the AI is aware of that early. But I can see the Ferraris are out, though. The VSC is still on. Also, where does 10 seconds come out? Actually, curious. Like, 12... It comes out ahead of Mick, actually, if that time estimate is correct under VSC. Well, it's too late because he's in. I know at least one of these Ferraris is coming in. Sainz has come in. Max did not come in. I've been mugged off there. I think he can make it. And especially the VSC held until Mick came in. Will this bring Mick into it? It also depends on how long the VSC lasts on the outside of putting these tyres on, because obviously they're not going to burn. And we've got a bit of fuel in hand as well. So Mick comes out behind Magnussen, but not that far behind Magnussen. VSC ends soon. So we're not going to really gain much, but it's ending now. What is Mick to the leader? 32 seconds. So he's actually slightly longer in the pit lane than I think it suggested it would be. But they will pit again. I'm pretty certain they will pit again. Because actually, to be fair, the original pit stop estimate was lap 47. So he definitely thought we could do it. And I wouldn't be surprised if they pit soon anyways. He's got fuel in hand, so let's burn a little bit. Let's burn fuel during this stage. Pierre's still got the fastest lap, so I don't really feel the need to push. If I can get Mick within a pit stop, then Mick's in for a podium again. But he's got to get under sort of 22 seconds. Did Norris pit under that safety car? I don't think he did. No. Interesting that Vettel did, even though he was kind of late the first time round. Trying to see what his comparative times were there. I mean, Gasly's gained about a second on the leaders here. Possibly more. This is the first full lap he's done since the pit stop. 1:19.8. So that's what? 1.6 seconds faster. And Mick has done... I said that as if he was crossing a line. He isn't yet. So Max is doing a 1:21.4. So same as the leaders, actually. And Mick's done a 1:20 flat. So Mick's doing a 1.5 seconds faster as well. did Zhou just do the fastest first sector? How and when? Where is he on the track? Oh, it's because he's being towed by the leaders. Zhou might be about to do fastest lap just by virtue of being on softs and being towed by the leaders at some point here. But he might be held up by them now, actually, ironically. I wouldn't be surprised if they pit now because it is lap 47. Yeah, Verstappen's gone anyway. So Mick pushing, unfortunately, is not going to happen. I might try and deploy him from here, but yeah, I think Zhou was held up. So Gasly's ahead of him, obviously. Sainz is ahead of him. I mean, that's a valid point as well. Sainz is going to be a roadblock for Verstappen. I want to see what level his tyres are on when he comes out. Because obviously Sainz's were comparative, so I'm going to guess they're going to be about 90% as well. 91, yeah. So they're going to be about 10% better. Gasly's about 2 seconds faster than Leclerc. Well, I can see Max. I would expect Magnussen to pit. There's a very good chance here that Mick gets Leclerc. There's no point deploying through this because we're going to get stuck behind Magnussen regardless. So, and this might actually be the key thing that keeps Leclerc ahead of us. Leclerc doesn't pit. Magnussen does. Zhou overtook Leclerc. Is Leclerc actually going to have... Is Leclerc going to be benefited by that? Okay, so Mick's not on for a podium just because, you know, Max came out ahead of him. But how far... He's 3 seconds behind Max. I don't think that's a gap that's going to be caught. I think Zhou has helped Leclerc there with DRS. Leclerc's just coming out of the pit lane now. And Mick is right there with him, but only with him, unfortunately. As much as I don't want to attack the tyres, I will do. To get within a second of Leclerc, hopefully. Don't need to now, I don't think, but just get within that second of Leclerc, and we've suddenly got Leclerc as a tow, as Mick actually does the fastest lap as a result of that. Bit unfortunate for Pierre, that, but I was really hoping we get closer to Leclerc, actually, via that. Actually can't push the fuel anymore with either of these two. I'll just save it on Pierre for now. This is when I wanted to come in, by the way, lap 51, because then I could push, but that seems to be saying we're behind on schedule here. Okay, so Mick might have to settle for 5th here, but it's a good 5th. Someone's locked up somewhere else. Actually, was it Sainz that's locked up? Safety car? Well, that's not good. Oh, it's actually turn 1. I mean, he wasn't in the points, but I've never known a driver so unlucky. I thought it might have been Sainz that had an issue, because it looked like he'd lost time to whoever that is. At the back, I presume. Sergeant. That's bad news. Gasly stays, no question. And to be fair, what do we go on to? 82% tyres? Mick has 7 seconds on Russell. Gasly's actually going to pick up the safety car anyway, I think, straight away. Mick would only lose out to Russell. I could put him on better softs to guarantee him to get to the end of the race. Because I'm concerned, actually. Yeah, standard push would literally get us to 30%. And Mick seems to be doing worse, and I don't really know why. I'll get the fuel back, at least. I'd lose 1 place and gain 14% tyres. I'm taking a gamble with Mick. I can't do it with Pierre because unfortunately people are too close behind. In fact, he might still come out ahead of Verstappen. You just have to retake Sainz. But of course, he's actually already passed the pit lane entry, so is Sainz, actually. It says multiple cars crashed. Did someone hit him or did he hit someone on his way through? But yeah, I'm going to take a gamble with Mick. It didn't actually pick up Gasly. Oh, it didn't actually get a chance to click the button there. It sort of appeared and then immediately disappeared. So I can't actually rewatch the crash, unfortunately. But yeah, so Russell will get past. No qualms about that. How are we still nearly coming out behind Hamilton? We were 7 seconds ahead of Russell, so we should have come out 7 seconds behind Russell. Safety car, average pit lane time loss, 12 seconds. No, actually, according to that, we should have been 5 seconds behind, and yet we are 19 seconds behind. We lost 19 seconds in that pit stop. Still came out ahead of Hamilton, thank God, but... So if Gasly were to pit, he'd still probably just beat Verstappen, but that's about it. Yeah, because Mick was only 1 second behind Leclerc, so he's lost 19 seconds there. So Verstappen's right on the cusp of being exactly where Pierre would come out. And that gap isn't changing. Actually, that's a point. Pierre is the leader. He doesn't need to push the tyres to get caught up. The safety car has to wait for him. He doesn't have to worry about not getting caught up because he is the leader. Also, Mick was still pushing fuel. Marginally concerned I just missed the safety car restart message there, but that was lap cars may overtake it, even though there's still some behind. Actually, so Tsunoda, who's 17th, is still there, so it's just Sargent and Ocon. Oh, so the safety car just let that batch of cars through initially. Okay, because I could have sworn there was a whole batch of cars that got there ahead of Pierre did. Okay, so it's not even let a bunch of people get there, so we can't push the tyres. We can with Mick. All right, so we'll try and retake Russell. How has Gasly lost that much compared to Sainz during the safety car? I don't understand that. No DRS for 3 laps, of course. Lap 54, everything restarts. It was quite a long safety car, to be fair. I mean, it makes it exciting because he did kind of have a 5-second gap that was going relatively unchallenged. Actually, we probably should be on director mode, just so we can see a little bit more what's going on. Pierre's actually having to fight Hamilton on the restart, but he's sort of vaguely on the inside of George Russell here, and goes off the track to make the move work, but has re-got George Russell, so pitch stop.
That's it.
Salvaged.
So happy to let these guys go.
And now we'll just save the tyres. because now we're on par with... We might as well watch an overtake because we've not actually had that many. But thank you, Jack Doohan, really for actually making it interesting, because this was going to be pretty much a... Well, we'll just watch the dots go round and round and round until this race ends kind of race. But we've got the position back and we no longer really have to worry about Mick running out of tyres. Why isn't he pushing his fuel? He's got a second on Sainz somehow, as Pierre. I mean, the VSC had already sort of saved Mick's race, but this safety car has definitely saved it because now he's on good tyres to boot. As poor Ocon is fighting Sargent in a completely separate race on the opposite side of the track. Bless them. Vettel nearly got caught up. Mick? That's not a spot to overtake normally. What? Mick's still deploying, I now realise, but so's Pierre, actually. And I'm sorry, Mick? Mick with an unconventional overtake, but over the last couple of races, that has been his trademark. It's a great move, and he's got Sainz and Leclerc ahead of him now. No more ERS push, of course, but Leclerc's tyres are actually better than Max's. Hang on, how would Leclerc... Oh, no, he pitted later, didn't he? Oh, Pierre's done the fastest lap, actually. Oh, Sector 3's had an incident, and they are stopped on track. Oh, Shogun Yu again, bless him. And Tsunoda. This is actually Tsunoda's fault. I wouldn't be surprised if it's Tsunoda's fault. I didn't come back after the previous highlight, but...
Now let's look at this. The focus on Tsunoda.
Is it? Is the focus on Tsunoda? I mean, there wasn't, and there was no damage. Crofty just making shit up now. Okay, so Pierre with a 2.5 second lead, actually, as DRS activates, I think. Yeah, which will make the squabble behind between the Ferraris interesting. Oh, take each other out, Ferraris. Go on, give us a 1-2. But I could try and micromanage with Mick a little bit, try to keep him in that fight a little bit harder, but I don't really think there's much I can do there. Russell's just about hanging on as well. This safety car's helped him out massively. Tsunoda's gone off the road again. I just saw the dot come back on track. I said, oh, okay, Leclerc does a faster lap. I didn't actually put the incentive was optional this time. It wasn't the pre-built option, and I didn't put it on just because we got mugged off last race. So there's 6 laps to go, and Leclerc is closing the gap. He's going 0.4 faster a lap somehow. I know his tyres are 20% better, but I think annoyingly he might have this. How are they 20% better? Gasly and Sainz's tyres were basically identical when the safety car happened. How are they now 6% apart? I mean, actually, Leclerc's got the lead now, but not really much I can do about this. I think we've got enough. I did just temporarily come off pushing the fuel just because we were going to run out by the end. Oh, Pierre doesn't even have DRS on them. Oh, I should have pitted him. I should have pitted him and just be done with it. Surely Sainz has got to be in a similar boat though now. How is there such a discrepancy between Pierre and them? Like, he's just about going to get to the end of the race. Pierre, I got mugged off by that VSC where I shouldn't have pitted. It's the VSC that did it. Oh, sure, this is the race where tyre degradation actually happens. Ocon's gone off the track again. He's not having a fun race. Did Sainz just get... Sainz did just get him. I'm going to let Mick through because otherwise he's going to get held up. And Mick might actually help Gasly with DRS more than anything to keep 3rd and 4th at least. Is this last lap? It is last lap. We'll be on 34%, 45. Well, we'll attack with Mick's tyres. Unfortunately, it's ruined Gasly's race, but
last lap.
Might as well rewatch that.
Let's have a look.
I mean, Ferrari aren't the nearest rivals, actually, so this isn't too awful. It's a shame for Pierre. I thought he'd still get to the end of the race, particularly with the safety car, you know, helping tyre wear. I should have put... My gut instinct said bring him in, even though he was 19 seconds, basically exactly, to Verstappen. Well, we can also deploy with Mick from there. We'll deploy with Pierre from there. We'll attack from here as well with Pierre's tyres. He's going to hit 30% by the end of the lap, but
Use energy.
just try and hold on to 4th from Max is kind of crucial. Someone's gone off in Sector 1. I think it's Joe again, or Stroll. It's Stroll. I'm surprised with the number of incidents that hasn't happened so far, but it is Stroll now. Oh, actually, Gasly's having a go at Sainz, despite everything. He's not going to get him, but Mick holds on comfortably for 2nd, and Pierre holds on for 4th, which was the main thing there. Good for him. I didn't come back at the end, but sure. Safety car killed us with Pierre, but that's on me as well. I should have pitted him. Good for Charles. I did say Ferraris were the best car on the grid, and admittedly, we were running away with it a little bit.
Thanks, guys.
Driver finish. Thank you for that message. Mick's on the podium, though. We'll give him the dues. Very rarely does he get the post-race focus, so have this one, Mick. His best finish of the year, of course, 2nd. He's had 2 non-finishes, but otherwise it's been 6th, 5th, 4th, and 3rd. And now 2nd, I think. That doesn't work. With 2 Ferraris alongside him as well. Ferrari, Schumacher. That's it's a poignant podium. Charles Leclerc also gets fastest lap, irritatingly, of course, as well. Pierre down 3, Mick up 6. We'll take it. As a team, we'll take it. What could have been otherwise, though? What could have been? Yeah, I thought I'd wait for the music to end this time. Mostly because Ocon and Doohan didn't necessarily qualify that well to begin with. Neither did Joe in the end. He qualified 12th. They'd finished 16th. Today's biggest loser really is actually Pierre. Qualified 1st, finishes 4th. Down 3 places. Pretty much the highest loss otherwise, and the other two were Bottas and Perez, who of course had that moment early on. So yeah, Max Verstappen loses out as well, despite actually pitting sort of correctly at the correct time in the end. Sainz, who pitted alongside Pierre, actually stuck it out for the remainder of the race. Pierre's tyre degradation, his smoothness attribute, isn't terrible. I do not know why he was so much worse than Sainz. Sainz's smoothness, he is the smooth operator, I suppose. Sainz's smoothness must be off the chain, though. Mick moves up 2 places, gets both Perez and Bottas, who, of course, as I say, had that moment. 1 on 4 points apiece for them. Pierre at least gets the point for pole, which adds to the full roster of things. He's now got something in all of the columns on that right-hand side. 4 wins, 5 podiums, 3 fastest laps, and a pole position. But yeah, Mick with 2 podiums now. It says he's finished 6 out of 6 races. That is a lie. But Charles Leclerc closes on Max Verstappen. Technically, Pierre extends his lead. And Ferrari close up. But our overall advantage in the constructors is technically more. I believe we went into this 33 points ahead. And now we are 37. So technically, we've extended, and Haas with points with Magnussen, I think, move up to 6. McLaren in 8th. Ugh, pain, although happening in real life. Pierre does get a development point, and I think Mick might as well. He does. Points all round. I won't be surprised if Behrman has one anyway, because he often does. Yeah, his smooth attribute is 80. He's not terrible. Mick's is 88. We'll get his controller trait. We'll round that off. And I think I do need to do something about his overtaking and defending, in particular. Carlos's smoothness is 88. He's less than Mick. Please explain to me how he had 7% more tyres than we did by the end. Well, at the point that we recognised it anyway. Please explain to me. Also, explain to me how Max has better smoothness. Surely Max would be like the lowest of the smooth drivers. To be fair, he might be capable of it when the time arrives, but he's not known for his, restraint. Charles Leclerc's is 91. How did they come to that conclusion? I mean, I presume points have gone into them technically over the course of AI points, but 91? How does Perez not have 90 plus? The man known for his tyre management has 87. He's got 1 more percent than Max. 1. Bottas was kind of known for his smoothness as well, and his is only 84. Russell's is 90. Russell's is 93. I mean, to be fair, kind of valid on his front, but 93. He has the highest of everyone. Albon's should be pretty high as well, considering his Australia antics. Yeah, 88. And for comparison, Jack Doohan's 46 out of 100. 46! It's actually pretty good otherwise. He just can't hold on to his tyres. That's why he keeps pitting late on, by the way. Or crashing, I suppose. Well, that's it. It's Monaco next, and off the back of a win in Spain, the Monegasque driver goes into that on a high. However, despite Leclerc's win, we have technically extended our advantage in both championships. And makes best result of the season. Tell a lie, I don't think he ever had a 4th, but he was definitely 6th, 5th, 3rd and 2nd, with 2 non-finishers. Or non-points finishers. Well, that'll do us for now. Until next time, if you enjoyed this one, like, comment, subscribe. You know the deal. Until next time, ta-ra!